Hey, I'm Laura Ferry, and welcome to the My Inner Struggle podcast. I'm here talking everything personal growth, lifestyle, and business. And we're about to embark on a new month. And new month, new mindset, new beginnings. And I'm here to put a little bug in your ear. Don't let getting uncomfortable stop you from reaching your goals. Don't let getting uncomfortable stop you from reaching your goals. I'm talking about self-sabotage. Why don't we finish things? The act of self-sabotage starts long before we ever get the wheels moving on it. What are the reasons that we might self-sabotage? Are we afraid of failing? Okay. Are we afraid of succeeding? Where I come from, feeling bad is the easy part. Feeling good was what was foreign. So to do things that made me happy or feel good felt weird and wrong, quite honestly. The physical response you have in your body is because of an emotion you haven't yet processed. So in the beginning of my journey, and depending on what it is now, I still have to work through those things and feel that self-worth and maybe work through those triggers and the steps that are appropriate to get through that and know and understand that I do deserve to be happy and successful. And so a lot of people that I talk to kind of struggle with the same thing, especially business owners, because we're really relying on ourselves for that. Even if you are married or have a spouse or whatever, they don't always understand it, to a certain degree of the entirety of owning a business and having that drive and navigating that. So I had a friend recently who's also a business owner, and he's always on the grind. He said he went on a business trip recently, and he had texted me and said, was like, oh, maybe I'll go take a walk down by the water and check it out later after I'm done. And I said, I think that's a great idea. Take a few minutes for yourself while you're there. A few days later, we wound up talking on the phone, and I said, did you ever take your walk by the water? And he stopped and he goes, no. And he knew I was going to ask. So he goes, I don't know why. And I said, are you afraid it might feel good? And he said, maybe. So one of my downfalls is that I love to work. I've always loved to work. I like projects. I like feeling accomplished. And being an entrepreneur and a single mom, I have all the proper excuses to keep me going. I would go for a long time in my old life and not sit on my couch. And that was when I was married, even too. I was trying to stay busy so that I didn't relax. And when we relax is when our mind can start wandering. But when we're at peace with what's in our mind, we're not going to have those racing thoughts. So there's definitely some things to that. And we can talk about that more on more episodes or videos, but about when you lay down, at night and your mind is like reeling and you need to quiet your mind and come to terms with your thoughts. But all of that work is all done during the day, not when we go to sleep. So I digress. When I started, I found it nearly impossible in the beginning as I was turning my hobby and passion into an actual business to support my children, to relax. I was doing it. I would do the things. I would go out with the kids, but my mind was still, I had a million tabs open in my head and I couldn't find my balance. And it took some work and practice to get there, just like anything else. And I don't know why that would be surprising, but when I was in the beginning of my meditation practice, it took practice. And that's why they call it a practice, just like yoga. So it's not that I didn't want to feel good at that point. It was more about feeling guilty for not working on my business when I needed to all the time. And how would I ever succeed if I wasn't doing all of those things? So if you're a business owner, you probably get the reference. I'm not the only one, I'm sure, that understands it. And right now the dog decided that it would be a good time to eat. So we're just going to deal with that. So I actually watched a podcast of someone that I admire very, very much and has millions and millions and millions of followers. And as she said, she believes more in the content than the production. So I'm just going to go with that. So if you're a business owner, then you probably get the reference. I'm the only one that I have to count on, and no one is going to do it for me. And when people would say that to me before, and I was working with a coach in the fall time, Jay Cardielli, and he's like, it's all you. And so that statement made me feel very alone, but it's so accurate because it literally is all you. Even if you're married, your spouse isn't going to do it all for you. You have the drive, you have the passion. It's your project. You have to pick it up and keep moving. But there has to be a balance where I shut it off and I focus inward and all of the other elements that make up my life. So I spent this last weekend doing that, and I own my own house along with a giant mortgage, or all the joys of home ownership, and all the repairs and things that go along with it. Forget about keeping it clean. So I have this running list of shit that I need to address to get done through the month, every single month, and it keeps growing all the time. And that reminds me, I have to change my fucking water filter again. It's like my Achilles heel. I can never get the damn thing off or unscrewed, and I just never can get it on my own. So I feel bad for anybody that comes to visit. I'm like, do you want to help me change my water filter? So yesterday I got my list together. My list is always together, but I sort of prioritized what I could do yesterday and what was the most important at the time to get done what I needed to get done. So that list contained a lot of things that needed to be finished, that had been started, but needed to be finished. And those are sometimes those things that can sit. And if you've ever done like home projects or home improvement projects, and I've never really been blessed with the finances to have someone else do it for me. So I've been a big DIYer. And when you don't finish the projects, then you're just staring at those unfinished things all the time. And this is where you spend your time. And so do you want to be feeling like, oh, this looks so good and refreshed, or are you going to be resentful in 3 years when you have never finished putting up the base molding over there after you paint it or something like that? Anyway, this list contains a lot of things that needed to be finished. So this weekend, I didn't have my kids. I jammed all fucking day yesterday. I think I got like 20,000 steps, and my house isn't that big, guys. So half of what I did wasn't on the list. So I did strategically add it to the list and then quickly cross it off because I'm not dumb. But I guess at this point, I'm getting to is that we need to finish the things that we've started, because otherwise we're just mentally dragging it all around with us all the time, and it frees up space to open up the space in our brains and our hearts and to more good stuff. So if we didn't have to worry about finishing these projects on the weekends, then we could spend our weekends doing something fun, that we find fulfilling. So I spackled the kitchen, and today I'll touch up the paint. I'm clearing out the clutter as I go through each thing. And so I've had these different methods that I've kind of had along the way. But every quarter I try to clean out the linen closet. And at least, even not if you're not clearing the clutter, because I'm not adding to it all the time, I'm very careful about what I bring into my space at this point. And I don't buy shit just to buy shit. It has to have a purpose, and I have to love it, basically, for it to come into the house. But cleaning out the clutter, and just sort of like reorganizing, refolding all the stuff in the linen closet or whatever, because kids will grab their stuff and, something might get messed up. And the same with the coat closet, right? So that's where the shoes kind of go to die sometimes in this house, because the ones that they're wearing normally are kind of like out or in the garage where we keep them or whatever. So on this path of clearing the clutter and getting myself organized, I have many moves in my house that I'm trying to make. And this is kind of like off topic because I didn't even think I was going to go here, but I'm going to go here. I had decided to let go of my office space. My lease is ending and I don't go there. And all of my clients, most of my clients, I should say, are virtual right now. So that was the whole goal, was to be able to work from anywhere and have that flexibility. So in that, I've been trying to brainstorm like where in my house I could have an office and a podcast studio and leave the stuff set up so that I don't have to go through setting it up all the time. So for the past year, when I've been working at home, I've been sitting at my kitchen table, which is fine. It's the hub, it's fine. But it got to the point where I was like, I can't sit here anymore. Well, one, the chair wasn't comfortable. So that's one thing. And we need to, address that before it becomes an issue. But I couldn't just leave my stuff out. And so I listened to a lot of different podcasts and I read a lot of books, and just having a separate space for that is really important. And I had considered my basement for a little while. But I really don't want to go down there. I need light and I need energy and I need to be in a space that inspires me, because that's how a creative mind works. So in this podcast that I listened to by Rachel Hollis, and if you haven't checked out her podcast or her books, she is really, really great, and you should definitely do that. She talked about how when she bought this house years ago, that, someone, I guess, told her, because she was raised that, a formal living room was for company and they kept it all nice for company and all of that. And I didn't have a formal living room growing up. We lived in a very small house, and, space was tight, especially with 4 kids. And in my house, I love my house. It's a little bit different, but I do have like a living room that you walk into that we aren't using. It is one of my favorite rooms in my house, quite honestly. And I've cultivated each piece and element in this room, and I love it. And it got to the point where it was basically like the dog lays on the couch in the living room, and we use it, when we have our Christmas tree up. So that just made it the deciding factor that I was like, I'm going to use this space that I love so much for my home office. And where there's a will, there's a way. I just started kind of Googling like different images and things just to get some ideas and my brain flowing on how I could set it up. And I fucking love it. So yesterday I spent a lot of my time cleaning out my office, bringing the stuff over, but then everything that was in the living room, I went through and decided what I could get rid of, what I needed to pack away, what needed to find a new home or whatever. And it felt so good to get myself organized. I'm going to backtrack for a little bit. I've been on my own 5 years. My ex-husband moved out 5 years ago. And after he moved out, I had a friend that went through a divorce prior to that. And a few years, after her divorce, she was then moving, that was their agreement with the house or whatever. And she was moving in with her new boyfriend. So I watched her then go through her entire house, in a scramble, trying to pack and move and go through junk that had been in your house for like 20 years. So observing that process, I had said, well, and I didn't know 5 years ago that I was still going to be in the same house. So my ex came over and we completely emptied the attic. And I was like, if we can do anything, if the stuff's been sitting up there for years and we haven't even touched it, let's go through it. So that was the whole point. So we did that then, and I continued to do that for years. But now here we are, like 5 years later, let's start another round of going through stuff. And like I said, now I'm much more careful about what I bring into the house. And when your kids are little, they save everything, every little piece of artwork or, toy that they get from a birthday party or whatever. So when they're little, I think it's a little bit harder to do that, to stay on top of it, because there is such a high volume of stuff that can come in. And I would encourage you, if you are in that boat, to kind of come up with a regular schedule for it, because that kind of helps. So I'm such a nerd sometimes, but I set quarterly on my reminders to clean out the coat closet and to also clean out the linen closet, just to remain clean. So that's coming up this week too. So I'm really excited though, because all the stuff that I pulled out of the living room, out of the bookcases, underneath, that were revived, and some of it I'm like, I really don't feel quite the same way about this as I used to, so I'm going to let this go, or what have you. So continually decluttering and getting myself organized is a step to success for me, because I cannot stand clutter. I can't stand having all this junk around me at all, and I don't want that. So, fresh, clean space is really important to me. So I set up my new office, and I'll share some photos on Facebook. And I'm totally fucking in love. And I gave all of my houseplants some love yesterday too, so that was really exciting, because I didn't always have a green thumb. I think it's something that I sort of developed through the years, and I've been into plants for several years now. But propagating them and stuff is always fun, and it's just one of those little things that you can spend a few minutes of time on, and it does bring me joy, and it's something that I enjoy. So again, I set up my new office, and I'll share some photos on Facebook. So I want you to think about next time you're holding yourself back, pause and ask why. So if you have this idea of something that you want to do in your house that you know could serve you better and organize you and your children better, think about all the different elements. Like, what are you afraid of? I don't, I guess I'm a little bit different in some regards of, everything is temporary. You can always change something. So if you're afraid to bite the bullet and get a certain calendar or whatever, just try it. Act as if it's yours, or put those elements in place and try it and see how it feels. And I'm talking about this now, and you might think it's crazy. It's the end of July, but before you know it, we'll be another month into the year, and our kids will be starting school again. And this year it's gonna look a lot different. Emily's going away to college, and I'll only have the two younger ones here, and that's a weird thought to think about, the day and how that's going to go. But I've always had this communication hub in the kitchen, and now I'm considering changing that around too. So I'll keep you posted on Facebook and in the blog. So if you are one of those people that are afraid of failing, and that's why you don't think that you can drive the ball forward, why? Is there someone in your life, that you're dreading telling about change, or you'll never hear the end of it from? Those passive aggressive people are the most toxic people that ever existed. And it's really just because they don't have the courage to say how they really feel, or look at their own reflection in the mirror to address the things that they need to in order to achieve the same stuff. They tend to make other people feel small for being themselves or trying something new. And unfortunately, I know or knew quite a few people in my life like that. And I still have a couple that I'm navigating through that, that they have a good heart, but they're so stuck that they don't even realize it. And it's kind of a shame, but it's not my job to fix them either, which is a life lesson by Laura. So if there's someone in your life that's constantly pointing out your mistakes that you've made, don't give them that power. You can set a boundary for yourself and keep going. And just remember that that is their own insecurity leaking out and spilling over. Don't take that on. A long time ago, I was coping with some social anxiety with alcohol. I didn't drink every day. It was really just in social situations where I used it as a coping mechanism to feel normal. And that was something that, I had discussed in my previous relationship and stuff. And that didn't really change for me. And I'm talking, this was when my kids were younger. I explain it in the book, and I know I've blogged about it before, but I never really felt confident in myself. And so when I would go into a social situation, I might gravitate right towards the alcohol to have a drink or two, and then I'd be good to feel normal for the rest of the evening or the event or whatever. Or sometimes it would, get a little out of control too. But the idea wasn't like, oh my gosh, I need alcohol because I need to get drunk. It was just to sort of give my anxiety something to, I don't know, something to just to make myself feel comfortable in that situation. And it wasn't until I took that out of the equation that I could figure out where that was coming from. So I basically didn't get through that until I consistently made myself feel uncomfortable in social situations. without alcohol or anything else to fill that void. And it's a surefire way to build your confidence in yourself and so that you do have something to offer people. So I kind of say that because I know that many people deal with the same thing. No one wants to talk about it, but I will. So I also wanted to talk about another behavior change too on the dating front. So I've heard from many men, more than I'd like to share, that I'm intimidating. So I did a little video about it a few months ago and I posted it, I think it's on YouTube, but I posted it on Facebook. And I got so many responses from men. It was such a mixed bunch of responses. Some men said they think it's because I think I'm better than them. Some men said it's because the guy who says that is weak himself and not to change anything about myself. So what does that mean exactly? And did you notice the difference between those responses and what those triggers might be within them and how that's not my problem? So I'm intimidating. Okay, so what does that mean? So I went to Google and it turns out I have balls. Actually, not really, but I looked that up and I found a few things. And a couple of the examples was that he thinks too highly of you. That is something that I heard very early on in my last relationship, that I was intimidating. He was always intimidated by me. And then the other reason is he doesn't feel worthy of you. So what do I do about that exactly? And I think at the time when I did this a few months ago, the answer is just say thank you. I haven't heard it in a while. And maybe it's because I've changed my frequency, I would say. I'm vibrating on a different frequency. I am not attracting the same people that I was attracting 6 months ago. I can say that for sure. But I know that I can't do anything about that because the guy who thinks that I'm intimidating is not my guy. So the old Laura will go back to herself and I would start right away and kind of like coach him more or less, so I talk about it in my book and my blog, but my dating career has been nothing short of like my biggest coaching career ever. And I would start working my magic and telling him that he is worthy of love and that he does deserve to be happy and all of those things. And not that I shouldn't say those things, but it's not my fucking job to fix him. So you are worthy of love. And I don't want to chase anybody anymore. I'm not chasing or fixing or trying to prove myself to anyone. And if he doesn't see the potential that I see, then that's not my problem, unfortunately. And it's so weird to hear myself say it out loud because this is something that I've struggled with a great deal. I was raised by a narcissistic mother, and these are all things that I've kind of come to learn in the last few years and come to terms with. And when you are raised, your relationship with your mother is the foundation of all relationships that you have in your life. And so the relationship that I had with her was I basically needed permission to feel good. I, for whatever reason, was singled out in the bunch and had a very different experience. I mean, all of us had a different experience, but when you wake up in the morning and you're trying to guess how you're supposed to feel during the day, depending on their mood, essentially. So when I went into relationships, that's how I navigated myself. I made myself smaller and I wouldn't ask for anything, but not anymore. So going after the emotionally unavailable catch, talk about self-sabotage. It's doomed from the beginning. So some of the stuff that I've worked on is that knowing that it isn't my job to fix anyone. And it took me until now, I'm 42, to fucking own that because it's not my job to fix anyone. A few months ago, I was laughing through a conversation with an old friend and I said, come on, don't you have any single friends that want to love me? And he was like, let me think about it. He's like, no one I know is worthy of you. And I said, that has got to be the sweetest thing that you've ever said to me. And he laughed and he's like, no, really, my friends are trash. You definitely want better. So um, I found myself really affirming that in the moment that I'm like, maybe just now is not the right time to find someone or to even think about it, I guess. And so I kept telling myself, I'm too busy to have a relationship right now. And then I found myself, I'd sit with that for a little bit, and then I found myself, is that just a defense mechanism because I'm not finding anyone, or I wasn't even looking for a long time either. So when we say we want to spend time with someone, but yet I spend all my time alone and I don't go out, then how am I supposed to meet someone? Because I'm pretty sure, the 19-year-old Amazon guy is probably not going to be my guy. I'm 42. So I had said a few different things, but my dating profile, right? So I'm just looking for someone I can flirt and be stupid with the rest of my life. I'm looking for my best friend. So I'm wondering if you listened to the podcast last week, because it's about being a solopreneur and navigating the stuff that comes along with that. I don't have time for games, but I want to ask the guys who are listening for their feedback. I had a date last week, and it just so happened to happen after that podcast came out. It was totally unexpected, and a friend of a friend, and it wound up being one of the best fucking dates I've ever been on. And I hadn't felt that in a really, really long time. It was like seamless. It was so cool. And I've never been on a date with someone that matched my energy so much. And that was fucking cool. And he's also an entrepreneur, business owner. And he has stared in the face of failure and kept going until he found success. And I'm like, how fucking perfect could this be? This is interesting, right? And the conversation flowed and he was easy to talk to. And we kept saying the same thing. And he kept saying the same thing. He's like, wow. He's like, so much of our lives have aligned. And everything about this feels right. So it was nice to talk to someone that gets it, that understands. And we talked about being in alignment with our goals and embodying a practice that really drives them in meditation. I just had a great fucking time. And the next morning, he was very communicative. Like he was like, oh, all right. He's like, well, I'll text you when I get home. See what you're up to or whatever. Can we definitely, do you want to hang out tomorrow? Like, I was like, holy shit, could my life really have changed overnight like that? This is interesting. It's just so strange. So the next morning, he texts me good morning and he's like, neither of us have kids this weekend. We should adventure. And I thought, like, an overnight? I'm sitting here mulling it over in my head. So I started consulting my guy friend who knows him. So I said, okay, I've been clear from my intention in the beginning. I'm not looking for a hookup. I am definitely looking for my best friend. I'm not prude and I can take some jokes and roll with the greatest of them. And sex is fucking great, but let's get to know each other. So he said, my friend said, just be clear. Just, set your intention from the beginning. I'm not looking for a hookup. So I did. And I didn't want to be the Debbie Downer, but I want to stay true to myself and be authentic. And he said, and he said the same thing. He's like, I'm not either. So we went over possible plans for like this overnight. So I'm like, is this crazy? But I'm like, he's a friend of a friend. I don't know. That could be cool. That would be interesting. We never really committed to anything, sort of decided on something and then he backed off or whatever. And he's like, let's do something local and we can plan another time. Okay, cool. Whatever. Fine. Doesn't matter to me. And then we're texting back and forth and he talks about this meeting that he had and he's doing some stuff or whatever. And then out of the blue, he comes up and he's like, I really want a massage. I'm like, okay, where is this going? Because I've been in this type of conversation more times than I can count. I said, oh, do you get them often? And he's like, no, that's why I'm asking. So I'm like, so you're asking me for a massage? I've known the guy for 24 fucking hours. Why are you asking me to give you a massage? So I texted my guy friend back and I was like, what the fuck? Like, where did this come from? Like, why is this doesn't align with all the things that he said, right? So he's like, send him a link for a spa. And I did. And he said, thanks for the recommendation. And I never heard from him again. And the funny part is I thought he was this like evolved person. He meditates, he does all of these things. He's talked about anxiety and depression, and he, is a business owner, and he's doing the 5 a.m. thing, and it was so fucking cool. And I'm worth getting to know. So why, if you don't have the same intention, are you trying to trick me into thinking that you do? I don't have time for games. I'm fucking busy. If you're not into me, cool. Just be honest and authentic. And you're using sex as a defense mechanism, and you don't think that you're worthy for love, work on it. Tools help with anxiety, but there's no amount of deep breathing and affirmations that will resolve being in the wrong situation. I said it. I will never again stay in a situation where someone's actions do not match their words. And my awareness, guys, is high. I want you to think about your life, work, all the things as you would a business, just for this exercise. If you have experience in small business, which is where I love to be, you know that there are many people wearing multiple hats all the time, mainly because they can't hire enough people to do it, right? So it's necessary. They don't have the revenue to hire someone for every role, but how can they get it all done? So let's step back for a minute and think about the hats that you're wearing in your life right now. Work, home, school, as a parent, as a son or daughter, sibling, all of it. When you're in that small business, you can't grow the business by working in the business all the time. You need to step back and let the people do their thing and take your time to work on the business. So, your family isn't any different. As moms and dads, we're busy doing all of the things. But if you don't step back and prioritize, we're going to stay in that same spot. We're going to stay in the messy house. We're going to stay in the chaos. We're going to stay in we don't know where the lunchbox is. We're going to stay in I can't find my pants for school. All of it. If you don't step back and figure it the fuck out. Start getting your family involved. Start delegating responsibilities. Our kids need responsibilities so they can grow up to be responsible adults. Because if we don't show them, no one's going to show them. That's our job. It's literally our job. And if you're not making your kids do stuff, you're doing them a disservice. I'll never forget it when and I tell people this all the time, when I was getting divorced, my therapist, one of the first things that she said to me is to have all of my kids start doing their own laundry. And I thought she was kind of crazy at first, honestly. But she had said that was the advice that she was given when she got divorced, and she has 4 kids. And they've been doing it on their own ever since. And I forget what the ages were, but Evelyn, so if that was 5 years ago, Evelyn was just about 4. So she's a little young, but she wasn't doing it herself. We kind of did it together. We would take it in, she'd put it into the washer, I'd start it. She might switch it into the dryer. But I've been making my kids put away their clothes for a long time too, because I think they should have that responsibility. So it took some nudging in the beginning to make sure everyone wasn't needing to use the washing machine at the same time. But my oldest took to it faster than anyone for obvious reasons, but also because I wasn't getting it done fast enough for her anyway. And now it was really up to her. If she knew she wanted to wear a certain pair of pants to school one day, then she knew she had to get it done by then. It wasn't really like, Mom, did you do your laundry? Did you do my laundry yet? Or whatever. And of course, if somebody's out and they're like, oh, can you switch it for me? We all work as a team. We all do the same thing. So it started off small and then grew, and it's been really kind of a lifesaver, that small thing. Now I don't even really think about it, quite honestly. I do my own laundry, and I do like the miscellaneous like blankets and stuff like that. And, I'll guide the rest of them on theirs. But it works. So let them go through the junk in their rooms. You shouldn't be cleaning their room. Unless they're like 2, And they should be helping at that point too. Let them empty and load the dishwasher. They need to learn these life skills. And if you're sitting in the way because they won't do it right, you're not helping them at all. Teach them. That's our job as parents. Teach them to do the thing. Let your kids help so that you can do the things that matter most. Spending quality time with your family. So in all of that self-sabotage, whether it's afraid of failing or more importantly, afraid of succeeding, I'm going to say a couple things. You deserve to feel happy. You deserve to be in a space that inspires you every single day. You deserve to feel good. You deserve to be surrounded by love and abundance every single day. Stop holding yourself back. Start today. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I am so grateful to be sharing it with you. Please do me a favor and hit subscribe wherever you're watching or listening. And if you loved it, please share it with a friend. That is the most amount of support that you could give me right now. And check out the blog at myinnerstruggle.com. Follow me on Facebook and Instagram and sign up for the Self-Love Club where we can grow together. I am thinking of you and sending you love.